That is very cold. Hi, my name's Hannah. Welcome back to my channel. That was a new intro. I don't think I loved it, but we're just gonna move on past it because it's raining and I don't want that to mess with my audio. I feel like it is, but I can't tell if it is or not, so I'm just gonna move on. So this is going to be my November wrap-up. It's December, and I don't know if I can handle that, to be quite honest. I am ready for the year to be over, but it's gone so fast. I don't understand, perhaps. I am very confused, just as far as the passage of time. Okay, so I read math. 1, 2, 3, 4. No. 13 books this month, I think. If I mess up the math. No, I didn't. It is what it is, but yeah. So we're just gonna go through the books that I read in November, talk about my thoughts a little bit, and if you have read any of these and you want to share your thoughts down below, that'd be cool. We can chat about it. So the first book that I read, what was I gonna say? Oh, hi, Scout's here. The first book that I read this month was 8 Perfect Murders by Peter Swanson. So this one is about a bookstore owner who a couple years ago wrote a blog post talking about the 8 perfect murders in literature. And when these murders start happening, the FBI comes and talks to him and tries to figure out if he's connected, how he's connected, and like where to go from there. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I was spoiled for this book before I read it, which is really funny because I think it came out this year. The end is somewhat expected, so it wasn't that, I don't know, it's hard to say because it wasn't, maybe it's because I didn't really care how it ended that it didn't bother me, but it was like, Plus a not super great ending as far as thrillers go. It just felt kind of disappointing as an overall. Okay, then the next book that I read was My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. We are following 2 timelines with our main character Vanessa. One where she is a teenager at like a boarding school in like Connecticut, I don't know, one of the northern tiny states. And then in 2018, 2019, and both timelines are exploring her relationship with a man who was her teacher when she was younger, when she was his student. This is a very like painful book to get through. It was really difficult to read just because of the topic, the content of it. I was texting Morgan about it while I was reading it because she read it a couple months ago. I started with the audiobook and then just flipped to reading the ebook because it's really creepy and like unsettling, just the way that this man interacts with a like 14, 15, 16-year-old girl. And Morgan mentioned that it's like he's kind of talking to you and you're reading it like as an adult, knowing, even if you're a teenager, saying like, just because I'm an adult, reading it, knowing what a fucked up situation this is, and it was really good but extremely bizarre. It takes her a long time to realize that this was a bad thing, so it was very difficult to read, but very good. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. Next book that I read, changing the vibe a little bit, is Marion Winterbourne by Lisa Kleypas. This is the second book in the Ravenells series, and we are following Helen and a man, I don't know. This is a historical romance, so she's very sheltered. She like grew up on an estate outside of London, didn't meet people, doesn't know a lot of people, and her love interest, at the beginning of this novel, she is engaged or something close to that. She's engaged, she was very sheltered. Her love interest's name I forgot because I read this a month ago. He is not nobility, he's a shop owner, like a very popular shop owner, but not nobility. So he has a lot of class issues, I would say. Like, he notices things and he compares himself a lot, but Helen is just very sheltered, she's very shy, she's very quiet. So when he sees her as like being a snob and snubbing him, she's just like never talked to a man before. So it was like a little bit of a disconnect between them. A lot of miscommunication for this one. I gave this book 3 stars. I didn't enjoy it, but was it the favorite book that I read this month? No. It was fine. Another book that was just fine, kind of yikes for me, Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This book follows a girl, maybe her name is Jordan, if I'm thinking of the right Penelope Douglas book, Jordan Pike. He is her ex-boyfriend's dad. They meet. Her boyfriend's kind of a piece of shit while they've been dating. She meets his dad, doesn't realize it's his dad, is attracted to him. They move in with his dad, and then their relationship like slowly progresses and then hits a really weird bump and then like completely falls off and loses almost everything that I thought made it interesting. So I gave this book 3 stars. It was fine, but I thought I would enjoy this one more than I ended up enjoying it, so that was kind of like weird and disappointing for me. The next book that I read was The Roommate by Rosie Danan. I gave this book 3 stars. We are following 2 characters whose names I've also forgotten. She moves to California to live with her like high school crush. He ends up leaving to go on tour with his band and rents out the room to like a complete stranger. The stranger ends up being a porn star. I don't know if there's a better term that I could use for this as I think about it right now, but he does porn. And she's like a very sheltered, like society, again, Eastern, right? Northeast, Southwest, Eastern US tiny state type of lady where it's like old money. I don't know. So they become friends, start up a relationship, and it's again like the historical romance that I read where it's like he feels inadequate to her, so I think that starts up a lot of their problems and a lot of the miscommunication. There was something that happened towards the end for me that I felt should have been talked about more, and the main character, her being upset about it, was kind of just written as her being a snob, and it bugged me. But so I guess I'll pop spoilers up if you want to mute this for a second. So she helps him start his own like production company, but wants to be a silent investor, doesn't want her name revealed, and somehow her name ends up being in one of their interviews, like they know her name. And when she's upset about that, he just says that she's a snob, and I thought that that was weird and should have been like a point that was discussed later on in the book, and so that kind of disappointed me. So this was a 3-star book. Then I read Over the Woodward Wall by A. Deborah Baker, which is a pseudonym for Shauna McGuire, I think. She has like so many that I think their actual name is Shauna McGuire. They've written a lot of books. This is the companion to Middle Game and is following the Up and Under story, which was a metaphor for one of the things in the book. This was fine. I feel like I can't talk about it without talking about Middle Game spoilers. So this was the 3-star book for me. I did enjoy it, and I think I had an interesting day reading it. So sometimes listening to audiobooks, when I think about the book later, I can think about like where I was, what I was doing in that time. So I'll be able to think about this book fondly, but probably not better than Middle Game to me. The next one that I read was The Air Affair by Heather Cox and Jessica Morgan. This is the second book in the Royal We, a series following an American girl and a British prince falling in love. This one was slightly better than the first book in the sense that there wasn't as much drama and it didn't flip through timelines as much. It felt more like an organic storyline, and I did end up giving this book 3 stars. I can't remember what I gave the other one, but I did like it. It was good, okay, fine for me. Way less dramatic and just better, I think. Did I listen to this one while I was at work? Probably. Okay, the next book that I read was And the Sea Will Tell by Vincent Bugliosi. I gave this book 3 stars. This is a true crime / courtroom. What's the word I'm thinking of? Memoir? I don't know. Vincent was a prosecutor or a defense attorney. I can't remember. I think he might have done both, but I don't know. and he is telling the story of a couple who murdered another couple on an island outside of Hawaii, and how he got one of the women who helped, in my opinion, kill this couple acquitted. So 3 stars because, I don't know. Some people talked about how this was just Vincent talking about like what a great lawyer he was, which I agree. This was just kind of like a pat on the back to himself without getting too graphic, but it was fine. I read Enemies by Tijan. I gave this book 3 stars. We are following a girl who has had like a super shitty life. Her mom died of cancer. Her dad lost his job. They had to move, and she feels animosity towards the family that fired her dad and this one kid. She's his enemy. He's a very popular football player in, I think it's in Texas, which is kind of funny to me, but like a small Texas college, and them like not wanting to cross paths but then ending up being together the entire novel. It was fine. 3 stars. The first book that I've read by this author, a couple of the reviews that I saw were like, this is the worst one, but I wouldn't know compared to the other ones, but this one was fine. Then I read By Love Undone by Suzanne Enoch. This was weird. So we are following this is another historical romance. So we're following a girl who was like out in society and then ruined. So she runs away, ends up working for an older man on his estate, like as his companion. He gets sick or has some sort of injury, so he is like confined to his bed for a little while he heals. So his nephew comes to like check on the estate, and then girl and nephew end up like kind of in and out, but they end up together. Spoilers, it's about them. But 3 stars. This one was kind of too long for me and very dramatic and kind of mean a lot of the times to the main character. Like everybody was just really mean. So that was interesting. There's a little bit of cheating somewhat in this novel. Also, this man's going to marry his cousin. So, you know, Then I read Burn For Me by Ilona Andrews. This is the first book in a paranormal / urban fantasy series. We are following a girl who like secretly has magic powers in a society where people know about magic powers, so it's like fine. It's fine. Everybody has like different abilities depending on like their family. She is a private investigator who is hired to find a man from a somewhat prominent family, and then she ends up crossing paths with another person in this society who's also from like a pretty high up family who's very powerful, and his cousin got mixed up in this, so that's where he's looking for the man that she's looking for because he did something to his cousin, and it's confusing. This was really good. It was really interesting. This one is also set in Texas, so it's kind of interesting to like read about Houston, probably in like set in the 2010s, is that right? But kind of interesting, kind of fun to read about Texas. I like Texas. This was 3 stars. Hello, come back to me. The next book that I read was The Switch by Beth O'Leary. I got an audiobook arc of this one a long time ago. Hated the quality of the arc, couldn't handle it. So I just ended up physically reading it instead. We are following Eileen and her granddaughter Lena. Lena's sister died of cancer, and she has just been struggling for the year afterwards. So Eileen and Lena end up switching lives, essentially, and living situations. This is one of the contenders at this point for the Goodreads romance situation. This was not really, it's hard to, a little bit. There was like a little bit of romance, and also the grandma hooking up with also older men, which not really my vibe, not what I'm super interested in. So that part was kind of weird. 3 stars. This book was fine. I'm not gonna say I don't understand the hype because I could see how people like it, but it seemed like more women's fiction than romance to me, and that just is like somewhat of a distinction, but I don't know. Okay, the last book that I ended up reading for November was When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. This is a thriller set in Brooklyn, I believe, following a woman who is just realizing that her neighborhood is changing. I'm trying to think if that's the right term, but yes, her neighborhood is changing. A lot of her neighbors are moving out or disappearing, and white people are moving into their houses. It's being extremely gentrified. There's a lot of like racial tension from the white people towards the people who have lived there for a really long time, and she realizes that it might be slightly more nefarious than she realized. She's doing a lot of investigating with one of her new neighbors, and this book was a 3-star thriller for me. I think that it kind of wasn't wrapped up in the end, which was a little bit disappointing, but my first Alyssa Cole book, I will probably read the other ones. We will see where it takes me. This was a really long video. I don't know why. I can feel myself becoming congested, so I'm gonna stop talking, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be in 2 days. There will be links down below if you want to chat with me on Twitter or Instagram. Those will be linked down below, or if you want to talk to me here, I would love to chat with you. If you want to see Scout, she's on her cat tree. Say hello, evil baby. Right by my thermostat. There she is. She's here, causing problems for me. Okay, so that's it for this video. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.